Hi folks, it's Andy. Welcome to Kendo RANT. Let's get right into these questions. Okay, first one. For the Kendo RANT questions, I'm going to visit different dojo to mine and I'll be traveling to the US. And I wonder if there's any special etiquette when someone is a visitor. I oftentimes see people suddenly running to the dojo leader to thank them and ask them for feedback once practice is over. Could you please talk about that in the next Kendo RANT and if there's any rules and what to do when visiting? Yeah, no problem at all. The best thing to do, first of all, is try and get in touch with the dojo before you go there. Don't just show up, if possible. Try and get in touch with somebody. Tell them who you are, where you normally practice, what your sort of experience is, and let them know that you'll be coming to practice on that day. Then when you get there, find out who the head teacher is or the head instructor or the dojo leader. And make sure you go and give them a sort of greeting, say hi to them and thank them at that point for letting you practice at the dojo. That's kind of the done thing. Make sure to try and practice with them. If you get the chance to do free jigeko, do your best to try and get the chance to practice with them. And then afterwards, as you say, run over to them at the end of practice, thank them for letting you join the practice, and they'll probably volunteer feedback for you if they've got it. Okay, that's the best way to go about it. Okay. Next one. For Nidan grading, we had to write a short thesis on Kikentai no Ichi and demonstrate the technique. When I see action photos of Ippon being scored, the Kendo player's right foot is still in the air whilst the Shinai has already made contact with the men. I'm under the impression that the stomp of the Fumikomi and the strike on the men and the Ki need to happen in one count. My question is, if the Ki and the men strike happen simultaneously while the foot is still in the air, there will be a second move or sound as the foot stomp reaches the floor. Is that a valid strike? All the best. Okay, so that's a great question. It's not an unusual question. If you look at some of the high-speed action shots from the All Japan Kendo Championships, for example, you will see when the Shinai is making contact with the opponent, perhaps the men, often the right foot is still in the air. Right, Kikentai no Ichi means when your spirit, sword and body all come together in a single kind of action to make a valid strike in Kendo. And that's often manifested with a strike that connects together at the same time as your shout and your stamp, your Fumikomi. Now, when I say at the same time, it means roughly at the same time, all right? So it has to look to the naked eye to be roughly at the same time. Now, generally, especially with high-level players, the Shinai actually usually makes contact a split second first, and it is a split second. Now, you're talking about photographs that are taken with high-speed photography, and if you watch it in real time, it's at about the same time. Okay, so the sound of the Shinai and the shout and the stamp is roughly all happening together. Of course, it's a problem if the stamp is well after. If you hit men and then stamp, men and then men and then stamp after that, that's not together. But if it's at the same time, roughly the same time, even if there's a split second between one of those things happening, it's almost invariably it's the Shinai. Okay, the Shinai hits first and then the foot comes afterwards. But it's indistinguishable to the naked eye. Okay, it really is something that you need a high-speed camera to recognize. So when we start, nothing happens exactly. I mean, it could happen exactly, literally the same time, but it's hardly ever the case. All right, so it's not so completely strict that it has to be at such. It has to be at the same millisecond. Let's put it that way. Does that make sense? Next one. How long is Mokuso meant to last? Some clubs seem to go on for around 2 minutes, where others seem to stop after around 20 seconds. There isn't a set time when Mokuso should last. It's kind of, each club has their own way of doing it. Some clubs like to do it longer. Some tend to do it a little bit shorter. There isn't a set way. It's something that, obviously it should be long enough to give you a chance to kind of calm down, get into the mindset for practice, have a little think about what you'd like to achieve during the practice, set out your goals and stuff like that, and then ready to get into it. For me, 2 minutes is probably a little bit too long, but then 20 seconds, that could even be a bit too short. So it depends on the club. Next one. Question for everyone. So these, by the way, are from the Kendo Show Early Access group. There's a link in the description down below. Make sure you're in the group. It's free to join. It's a great place to post your questions because it's not just you get an answer on here, but there's members in that group from all over the world, and you'll get their feedback as well. So it says, what are the must-do or must-see events for Kendo? Of course, top of the mind would be the World and All Japan Championships. But I'd like to know what other events, especially in other regions, it doesn't have to be a huge event, but one that provides a great experience. Yeah, of course, the All Japan Championships is great. I've been to the All Japan Championships. It's good. It is good. It's a great experience to go to. I prefer watching it on the telly though, because you get a better view. But you know, it is great to be there, be in the Budokan and see it live. And the World Championships is an event like no other. It's an amazing event. Very, very intense, wonderful atmosphere. Other events that'd be great to go and see, the Gyokuryuki. The Gyokuryuki is an amazing tournament to go and watch. It's probably the biggest tournament in the world. There's like 1,000 teams. It takes 5 days. There's a post I put on the blog a couple of days ago introducing it. Me and Max went there and sort of took you around the Gyokuryuki. So go and check that video out. It happens in Fukuoka Prefecture every July. It's just happened. I have been posting quite a bit about it recently. So, yeah, that's definitely one that's worth seeing. The other one is the All Japan Embu Taikai, or what's commonly known as the Kyoto Taikai. That's an amazing event as well. That's held in the Butokuden in Kyoto, which is part of the Budo Center, which is next to the Heian Shrine in Kyoto. Happens in May, and that again, the Kendo part of that event I think lasts for 3 or 4 days, and you have to be you have to have the shogo of Renshi or above to enter that. Okay, so you have to have at least 6th dan Renshi to be able to join that. And the interesting thing about the Embu Taikai, it's not a tournament. Right, nobody wins it. Everybody gets one match. Embu means demonstration, so it's a kind of demonstration for the public. As to what high level Kendo is supposed to be. That's why it's supposed to be people that have shogo and higher. And it goes right from the people, younger guys, some of the top All Japan level players that are kind of 6th dan, Renshi 6th dan, you know, sort of younger police level guys, right through to some of the best 8th dan, Hanshi 8th dans, that is, of course, and there's even some people that are in it that are over 100 years old. So it's absolutely amazing to see, and the Butokuden is such a beautiful place. It really is. It's like just one of the most beautiful places on earth for people that like Kendo. So yeah, definitely get yourself to that if you can. Both those events are in Japan, by the way. But, you know, Kendo's Japanese, so that's why the best stuff's there. Next one. Please advise me on the dojo etiquette for using a Taiko drum. Is there any particular one used for Kendo dojo? Where is it placed in a dojo, and when is it used? Also, who would beat it? So a Taiko drum is like a Japanese drum. More often it's used as a musical instrument rather than a dojo prop, but they are used in lots of dojo for kind of helping the practice flow. There isn't, as far as I know, there isn't an absolute definite place where it has to go, because I've been to lots of different dojo that have Taiko and they're in different places. I just mentioned the Butokuden where they have the Kyoto Taikai. That's got two massive Taiko. They're huge, huge Taiko, and they're sort of on the sides because there's no room for them anywhere else really. They don't use them that much, but most places though, they do put them on the shomen side of the dojo, and they tend to be more manageable sized ones, not these massive huge ones. I don't know the technical terms of Taiko. I'm not really that into it, but you know, I've seen dojos use really small ones, and I've seen them use large ones as well. So it's whatever's convenient for you, really. It's really a practical item that's there to help, like I say, practice kind of run. It's used. When is it used? It's used for to signal the start or the finish of a practice. So if they might beat it maybe you're doing kakarigeko, maybe 10-second burst kakarigeko, 20-second burst kakarigeko. Often they'll beat it once, done, like that, and everyone does kakarigeko, and then done means stop or something like that. And then everyone moves around, done, they do kakarigeko, and done, they stop, move around, that sort of thing. Or a similar thing for jigeko, any sort of timed practice like that is very useful for that sort of thing. And the person that beats it could be their teacher, it could be the sensei. Sometimes it's a designated person like the club captain or whoever's responsible for doing it that day. There's no, as far as I know, there's no super hard and fast rules on that. Lots of different clubs or different dojos have different ways in which they go about using them. Okay, last one. We're flying through them today. If you practice, say, kata or suburi, and have to make do with a floor that's not slippy, how bad is it to wear socks? Asking for a friend. Okay, so you can tell your friend that it's obviously best not to wear socks to do Kendo barefoot, because that's how it's supposed to be. But if it's really like the sort of floor that you can't do it barefoot, like even, you know, if it's outside, for example, I've practiced kata outside with my shoes on. So it's not, you know, you don't get you know, kicked out of the Kendo Federation for practicing a bit of kata in your socks. All right, so don't worry about it. You can do it. You might have to modify your footwork a little bit in terms of the way it's sliding. However, just be careful. If you're on carpet, for example, if you're able to do kind of sliding footwork, you should still be able to do that on the carpet without your socks on. You have to be honest with yourself. Whether is it the floor that's stopping you, or is it that you haven't quite mastered sliding footwork yet? All right, so just be careful not to use it as an excuse not to do it properly. All right, but if you really can't do it on the floor that you're on, then you might just have to modify the footwork so that you can still practice. But you have to make sure that if you're doing suburi, for example, you are practicing with the correct swings. Watch the video about how to practice suburi at home. And as well, if you are modifying your footwork, you still have to concentrate on bringing up your left foot quickly behind you, and that's a lot harder if you can't slide very well on the floor. All right, it's a lot harder to do that. If you're doing kata is a little bit easier to practice on a difficult surface, but yeah, you still have to make sure you don't, you know, you're still moving from the lower body, you don't bob up and down as you're walking and stuff like that. Okay, but yeah, you could do it. You could get around it if you haven't got another option. And that's it. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, you know, all that sort of stuff. Join the Kendo Show Early Access group and shop at KendoStar. See you all next time. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.